Hey everyone, it's Derek from the Family Resource Center in Fitchburg. Doing a follow-up video to my last video. In the last video, I showed you guys how to set your fishing rod up to fish for panfish. In this video, I'm going to go over what panfish are, so you guys know what you're targeting and what fish you're going to be catching, and also show you some fishing that I did for panfish recently, so you guys have an idea on how it works. So panfish, like I've said before, are small fish that are in large numbers in ponds and lakes. They're easy to catch. They like to go after worms, so the setup is pretty easy, but they're fun because you can catch them in big numbers. They also taste good. They're called panfish because you catch them, you throw them in a pan, and they're easy to cook and nice to eat. Um, so I'll throw up some pictures as well so you guys know what they look like, but essentially you're going to be fishing for sunfish. So that could be like bluegill sunfish, which are most prominent in most of the lakes and ponds around here. Um, You can catch green sunfish. I don't think we have any around here, but they do exist. There's also pumpkin seed sunfish, which are also pretty prominent around here as well. Um, and then my favorite to fish for is yellow perch. Those get a little bit bigger, the meat's a little sweeter, they taste better. If I catch some in a little bit, I can show you guys how to cook them up. But yellow perch are my favorite. There's also white perch. They look a lot different, but they taste kind of similar. And then you have black crappie, golden crappie. Those taste really good too, and they get a little bit bigger. They're all really fun to fish for. Like I said, they come in large numbers. They like to school up. So if you catch one, you're bound to catch more because they swim in schools. Once you find a school and they know that there's bait there, they tend to stay in that area until they decide that they're going to move on. Um, During ice fishing season, it can get really fun when you hit a school. We've caught 12 or 13 fish from the same school all in a row while ice fishing. Um, so like I said, pan fishing can get really, really fun. They like to be in weeds, but you can find them in open water when they're swimming around. But if you can locate like lily pads, any weeds in or grass beds in a lake or pond, they like to hang out there. If you can find some smaller sunfish, there might be some big bass around too, so that could be a good indicator if you're looking for bass. You can catch bass on worm and bobber, but it's very rare. It's usually too small for them, but if they're hungry enough, like if it's post spawn and they're looking to fatten up for the winter, you might get lucky. But it's hard during certain times of the year, like the spawn, where they're sitting on their beds and they're not really wanting to move. They're kind of protecting their eggs, and they're only really going after anything that seems like a threat. Um, but sunfish will go after a worm and bobber. You can catch trout on worm and bobber. I've done it. You just have to be able to locate where the trout are, and they'll really only hit if they're super hungry. Um, Catfish love worm and bobber, but you got to make sure it's down low enough in the water because catfish like to hunt the bottom. But primarily, this sort of setup and the fishing I did was for panfish. Um, So that's a quick little explanation on panfish. Like I said, I'll put up some photos of what the fish I just described look like, so you know what you're catching and what you're targeting. Um, Again, if anyone has any questions about anything specific regarding the fish, how to fish them, definitely leave comments at the bottom of the video, and I can follow up with you guys. But hopefully you enjoy this video. Thanks.
Alright, so we're gonna put a worm on the hook. Here's a worm. Sometimes I'll break them in half. If you just pinch them with your fingers, you can break them right in half. Sometimes you gotta use your nail a little bit. You can break it right in half. You're gonna wanna just take it, put the hook through like that, and then just keep hooking it all the way down. If it's wiggling, that's good. They like them nice and lively. They will eat dead ones sometimes if they're hungry enough, but you want them alive. Alright, so to cast this, you want to take either one finger or two fingers. I use two. Hold your line like this up against your rod. Flip the bail like that. Then you're going to want to swing it almost like a baseball bat. And then you want to let go of the line when you want to cast it. So it looks like this. Get it right out there. And then close your bail. And then you just wait. You'll see your bobber start to like go up and down if a fish starts playing with it. Sometimes if the fish is too small, you'll see like ripples coming off of your bobber. That might just mean a small fish is messing with the bait, and you just need to be patient. The more patient you are, the better off. Try to avoid casting right into the weeds and the lily pads because you'll get hung up, and then that'll become an issue in itself. See, there's like some ripples coming off it right now. It means a small fish is playing with it. There is. Now to set the hook, you just want to reel in your slack and tug up on your rod a little bit. You don't want to tug it too hard, especially with panfish. With bigger fish, you can give it a little bit more of a tug, but with panfish, you want to do it nice and light because they're smaller. You can just yank the hook right out of their mouth, so you want to do it nice and easy. Something's messing with it a little bit. You can see it going up and down a little. When there's ripples coming off of it, you know something's messing with it. But you don't want to jump the gun too quick. You want to wait until that bobber goes under or you start seeing it being pulled. Just reel in a little. So in this pond, there's largemouth bass, pickerel, pond shiners, and yellow perch, and sunfish. You get hung up in weeds like this, take the line by your hand and pull it through with your hand. If you pull it through with the rod, you're gonna turn your rod into a catapult and you're gonna shoot that line straight back at you or whoever's fishing near you. And that can end pretty badly if someone gets a hook in them. So, still got our worm. Sometimes you just gotta find the spot where the fish are. See, there's a ripple out there. That means a fish came up and took a bug off the top of the water. So if you look for those, you try putting your line as close to it as possible. I'm trying to avoid casting right into these lily pads because you tend to get hung up a lot if you throw it right into the middle of the lily pads, and then you lose a lot of tackle that way. With your hooks getting hooked up on it, and you lose your bobbers, your hooks, and everything. So you want to be careful. You can see the wind is taking it a little bit as it's moving slightly with the wind. You can see the wind's moving out to the middle of the lake. Can give it a tug or a jig every now and then just to get the bait moving, interest the fish a little bit more. There's lots of frogs around, birds. Fishing is nice this week, but it's just, you and all the elements out here. Nice and peaceful. You want to make sure if you have weeds and stuff on your hook, you clear them off. Fish won't go after weeds because they know it's not food. So. Here's fish slurping all around us. It's just a matter of finding them. Like I said, just move around, change spots. So in this pond, there's a couple areas where the water comes into the pond. So moving water, fish like a lot. Bait fish tend to hold up there. So as you can see right here, there's a little waterfall. The water's flowing right here. Down there by the highway, there's two inlets where the water comes in, so fish like to be around there too in the warmer months. The colder months, their habits tend to change a little bit, but usually moving water, you can find fish. Now we know for a fact that there's a big bass over here in these lily pads. Yep, sometimes your line will get a little tangled up like this. So it's just a matter of flipping it all around. It's one of the downfalls to fishing with worm and bobber. This will happen sometimes. But it's usually a pretty easy fix if you're patient and take your time to figure out what happened and just untangle your line a little bit. like I was saying, over here in these weeds and lily pads is a big bass. Something just jumped over there. We know this because we were here fishing the other day and we caught a small little sunfish, and then a bass tried to eat that sunfish. So we almost landed a bass on a sunfish that we had just caught. So that was pretty interesting. So we know there's one in here. They're not likely to go after something as, oh, there we go, see it move? It's moving. You gotta be patient. Can't get ahead of yourself, or you'll lose a fish. So, see, there it goes again. Let the fish do most of the work when you're fishing with the worm and bobber. Let the fish take it. Yep, see, I tried to set the hook. I missed the fish and now I'm tangled up. So the name of the game is patience when you're fishing with worm and bobber. And they took our worm. So we'll put on a new one. Now your bobber should be sitting right on the water like that. And when a fish is messing with it, see it bob up and down, you can see the ripples coming out of it. That means there's a fish going after your bait. When the bobber goes fully under the water, that's when you want to set the hook. Or like now, if a fish you can tell is running off with it. Yep, see? We got one. Looks like it's probably a little guy. Yep, this is a golden pond shiner. These you can also use for bait. I might fill up this bucket with some water. Throw him in there. In case you want to use him later. So, there we go. It's as easy as that. Feels like a decent fish. Ah, of course. That's a good size fish. Where did I hook you?
So another fish that I forgot to mention that you can catch with worm and bobber is a shiner. Whether it's your regular pond shiner or a golden shiner. You can catch them. It's not the easiest way to catch a shiner. Shiners are used as live bait to catch bigger fish. That's what we use in the wintertime during ice fishing season to catch perch, trout, bass, anything really, as long as you use the right size minnow. They're also called minnows. So you can catch them on a worm and bobber. You can also use them on a hook and bobber setup. So instead of hooking a worm on, you hook the shiner on. I ended up catching a couple golden shiners during this video shoot, and I tried to use one to catch a bass. Because I knew there was a bass in that area. Earlier in the day, I had caught a small sunfish, and when I was reeling the sunfish in, the bass tried to eat it. I almost landed the bass, but it wasn't hooked. It was just holding on to the fish. So once it got close to shore, saw me, it spit the fish out and took off. So I threw a golden shiner on there to see if I could catch the bass with the golden shiner. It did go after it, but the hook was just too small and I wasn't able to hook up on the bass. But I will put those portions of the video in here too, just so you can see those. Most people, you can either go to a bait shop and buy shiners by the dozen. They're not super expensive, but you can also buy shiner traps. I have a couple. Just a basket, small holes on either end. You fill it with dog food or some other kind of bait that the fish will like, old bread, like stale bread. You throw it out where you know there's shiners, and you can wait a couple hours, a couple days. You leave it out there. You come back, pull it in, and usually you can have some shiners in a basket. Then you dump them in a bucket and use them as bait. It can take a long time to catch enough shiners for bait if you're fishing with a worm and bobber, but like I said, it is possible to catch them. We've caught a couple really large golden shiners on worm and bobber, so those can be fun too if you can catch them big enough.
Alright, so I'm gonna give this golden shiner a try. See, we know there's a bass living right here. So it's a pretty big golden shiner, but oh, there he goes. I guess we're not using him. Try to catch another one, I guess. Alright, so attempt number 2 with the golden shiner. Use a net this time. So with shiners, you can either hook them through the back or through the lip. This guy, I'm going to hook through the back. So I've got my bigger hook, my bait holder. I want to go right behind this fin right here. Not too high, not too low. Go right through and out the other side. Then you want to drop them in. This is a bait caster, so I have to be a little bit more precise about how it's set up. Like I said, we know the bass is right around there, so cast him out there. Let him swim a little bit. Give him some line. And just kind of see where he goes. Alright, we got a bass on. Oh, we had a bass on. It's a tough thing about these weeds, man. I guess we just gotta catch another one and try again.
Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Planning on doing another video soon on some trout and how to fish for trout. Trout fishing is one of my favorite things to do. The season's winding down, so I don't know if I'll be able to get out there and shoot some video, but I'll at least do a video explaining how to set up your rod and techniques and stuff to fish for them, and you know, what type of fish you're actually fishing for as far as trout. So I'll do that, and then I'm getting excited because it's starting to cool off, and that means that winter's right around the corner and the ponds and lakes are going to start freezing. Ice fishing season's my favorite fishing season, favorite outdoor sport season of the year. So I'm going to be starting to get my gear ready for that, and I'll do some videos about the gear, how to set up all that stuff, and also what fish we target during the winter, how to target them, and things like that. It's nice if you start ice fishing because it gives you something to do in the winter. I don't ski or anything, so being able to have an outdoor activity during the winter is nice. That way you're not always stuck inside. I'll go over safety as well because that's always a concern when you're ice fishing. You got to make sure that you're being safe and that conditions are safe. So I'll go over all that stuff too. Like I always say, if you guys have any questions, comments, any further future topics you want me to cover, leave comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe to the video and to the page. And hopefully these videos have been kind of helpful to you. I'll do some more, maybe some cooking videos and stuff like that coming up in the winter time when outdoor stuff isn't as active. So look forward to those. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and be good to each other.